A cold pour of milk, a cafeteria bursting with cruel laughter. But instead of fighting back, he silently recorded every detail, turning humiliation into something no one could erase. Like the video, subscribe to the channel because a quiet uprising is beginning and it will echo louder than any laughter. A cold stream of milk crashed down on his head. No warning, no hesitation, no one stopped it. In the middle of a crowded school cafeteria at peak lunch hour, a full cream carton was raised high and slammed onto the back of his neck. The sound of crushed plastic and milk splashing echoed like a slow-motion scene from a film. The room went silent for a second. Then came the laughter, loud, sharp, merciless. The boy sat still. Milk ran from his hair, down his face, soaking the collar of his worn-out white shirt. His sneakers darkened as they absorbed the spill. Beside him, his basketball backpack, the only clean thing he owned, lay still catching the first few drops. A group of tall white boys in matching team jackets and expensive watches stood behind him, laughing like they'd just performed for a live audience. Brandon, the team captain, stood at the center, still gripping the empty milk carton. He turned and smirked. Guess he was thirsty, and the crowd broke into another wave of laughter. One kid filmed it, shouting, "World star moment. Look at this." No one in the cafeteria said a word. A few girls covered their mouths. Some pretended they didn't see. Others kept their heads down, eyes on their trays, choosing silence over involvement. The boy didn't speak. He just slowly lifted his head. His eyes were wide, no tears, no begging, just a stare that made anyone looking feel the urge to turn away. Emma, the only classmate who'd ever said hi to him, started to stand up. But the friend next to her grabbed her wrist and whispered, "Don't, not worth it." The boy rose. Milk dripped from his clothes, leaving a slick trail behind him as he walked to the exit. He didn't curse, didn't cry, didn't lash out. He just gripped his backpack tighter, turned his head once and scanned the room from Brandon to the one filming, from the laughing to the ones who refused to look. No one moved, no one apologized. Only the loudspeaker came on above reminder, today's lunch includes BBQ chicken. That night in a cramped dorm room, he sat by the window, his hands still tacky with dried milk. He opened his phone and typed into a note app. Day 9. Milk Brandon, 7 laughing. No one stopped it, but I got back up. No long thoughts, no over-explanation. Just a record, like someone who survives not by telling, but by remembering. On the wall next to a poster of a retired black basketball legend, he stuck a new slip of paper. It read, "They thought they humiliated me, but really they just woke something I didn't even know was in me." The next morning, no one talked about the milk. No teachers asked, no internal email. In Eastbrook's world, things got redefined fast. A harmless prank, a small mistake, no one got hurt. And if the victim didn't speak up, then it couldn't have been serious. The only trace left was a faint white stain on the cafeteria floor, half mopped with a wet cloth the night before. The boy still showed up on time, still sat at the back of the class, still carried the same basketball backpack like every other day. But this time someone had drawn on his desk with marker, just small enough to seem like a joke. A monkey head, 2 bananas, and a scribbled line that read, "You should play Tarzan, not basketball." No one claimed it, but everyone in the class knew who did it and who let it stay there the entire period. When PE came, the coach split the class into relay teams. Brandon led Team A. The boys' team was picked last loudly. The coach read it out like a list of leftovers. Last group, number 21, number 8, number 12, and Kofi, his real name. But the way the coach said it, slow-tilted, like he was reading a foreign word or a mistake, drew a few laughs and a couple of, "What kind of name is that?" From the sidelines. Kofi just nodded. No corrections, no explanations. While stretching, he caught part of Brandon's voice nearby. "That kid's obsessed with basketball. Probably thinks Eastbrook is some NBA charity program." Another kid added, "He's an orphan, right? Makes sense. Who'd want to keep a kid like that around?" That one hit different, not like the milk. It didn't sting because it insulted him. It stung because it was real. Dug up like a shame, no one pushed back. A girl jogging by looked at him, paused slightly but kept running. That night, Kofi opened his phone and added a line to his notes. Day 10, my name got read like a punchline, my pass used like a slap, but I still ran every lap. Then he opened the old videos, training clips from years ago. Grainy footage, bad lighting, but his adoptive father's voice was still clear, still steady, never play to be seen. Play because when the ball's in your hands, no one else gets to control you. Kofi closed the video, picked up the ball, stood in the center of his cramped room, started dribbling. Each bounce against the cold cement echoed the same sentence in his mind. Doesn't matter who you are, you don't get to braid. 3 days after what happened on the field, Kofi became the center of a new game, one he never signed up for but somehow ended up starring in. They called it Banana Hunt. Every day a banana would appear where Kofi usually sat, and each time he found it, Brandon's crew would burst out laughing like they'd already rehearsed the punchline. Day 1, the banana was inside his desk. Day 2, it was placed neatly inside his lunchbox, even though he always kept it locked in his backpack. Day 3, there was no banana. But when he opened his locker to grab his sneakers, he saw it written in thick red marker across the inside wall. Still monkeying around, huh? No signature, no confrontation. But the hallway went silent when Kofi stood there holding his stained shoes, eyes locked on the message. A younger student passed by, paused briefly, then pretended to fix their laces, avoiding eye contact. That night, Kofi didn't go straight back to his room. He went to the court, the only place no one laughed at him because after 6 p.m. no one else stayed. He flipped on the stadium lights and stepped into the center of the empty court. He shot alone. Each throw into the empty hoop felt like a question hurled into the sky. Will they ever stop, or do I have to be the one to make it stop? In his dorm, he wrote, Day 13. The joke has a script. The actors know their cues. I'm the target, but I'm also the one rewriting the entire backstage. At the bottom, he added a smaller note. When they can't hurt you with fists, they switch to laughter, and then something unexpected. The next morning, tucked inside his desk, he found a small folded paper. Not a prank, just a single line written in neat slanted handwriting. I used to be one of the silent ones, but I can't stay quiet anymore. If you need a witness, I'm here, no name. But for the first time, Kofi didn't feel alone. Friday afternoon, while the whole school buzzed with excitement over the first exhibition basketball game of the season, Kofi sat alone in the old gym, the one the school team never used because it didn't meet lighting standards. The room smelled damp, the lights flickered, but there was one practice hoop in the far corner. That's where Kofi stood calmly shooting one throw after another, precise like clockwork, not missing once. A junior named Leo, a backup guard for the varsity team, happened to walk by. He stopped. Hey, you're the kid who got milk dumped on his head, right? Kofi turned but said nothing. Leo added, I thought you were just some dude who shot hoops at walls. Turns out you're actually good. Then he walked away. No apology, no mocking. Just a small acknowledgement, something Kofi hadn't gotten once since the day he arrived at Eastbrook that night. Kofi wrote Day 15, someone saw. Didn't defend, didn't laugh, but saw. Maybe that alone is the first crack in the wall, but the most important thing came the next morning. When Kofi stepped into the cafeteria for the first time since the milk incident, he noticed the chair he always sat in had been wiped clean. No writing, no bananas, just a folded white note placed on the table. Inside, in neat handwriting, it read, I know the truth about you. And no, I don't think you're just some lucky orphan. When you're ready, show them exactly who they've been underestimating. Kofi didn't know who wrote it. He folded the paper, slipped it into his pocket. His face didn't change, but for the first time, a new kind of thought formed in his mind, not one of defense, but of decision. If I lift my head, will they actually look? He stood up, grabbed his ball, and for the first time walked out to the court before sunset. Since that morning, Kofi changed his routine. He started waking up an hour earlier, heading to the old court behind the tech building, a place other students almost never went. The sky was still dim, the cement court lightly cracked and blanketed with mist, but he shot anyway, over and over. Each throw matched his breath. No audience, no cheers, just the sound of the ball hitting the rim and the dull, steady echo on the ground. Rhythmic, heavy, precise. After 3 mornings, Leo the Jr. showed up again. No small talk, no questions. Just stood outside the chain-link fence watching. On the 4th morning, he brought a varsity game ball and tossed it over the fence. That one's official team gear. Try it, see if it feels different. Kofi caught it, nodded, still didn't speak. The next morning, a PE teacher walked by and paused for a second when he saw Kofi practicing alone. He didn't stop, but his eyes lingered, not just in passing like before. That night, Kofi wrote Day 19, no one's talking, but more people are looking for longer than 3 seconds. That afternoon on the main court where the varsity team practiced, Brandon and his teammates were scrimmaging in prep for the spring tournament. Kofi sat in the bleachers, Not called down, not acknowledged. But after Brandon missed a wide-open shot, the coach snapped. Focus. You're throwing like someone who's never learned how to aim. Brandon turned around, caught Kofi's gaze from across the court. What are you looking at? Think you're a scout or something? His teammates laughed. But the coach followed Brandon's line of sight, saw Kofi, gave a subtle nod as if mentally noting something. That night, Kofi got an anonymous message in the student app. Coach is watching, keep going. No name, no emoji, just that sentence. But it was enough to push him further. He expanded his drills beyond shooting to ball handling, vertical jumps, lateral slides, deep range shots. Every drill repeated dozens of times in one session. No breaks, no complaints, no training, journey videos. He didn't need anyone to see it. He needed to believe it himself. At the end of that night's note, Kofi wrote, "No one said I deserved a shot, but I've never needed permission to prove I'd do." Monday final scrimmage before the official tournament. The whole school got second period, off to watch down on the court. Brandon and the varsity squad warmed up, music echoing across the gym. Kofi wasn't on the roster, of course, but he was there sitting in the last row of the bleachers, basketball backpack under his feet. Like always. No one said hi, but a few people were starting to look at him longer than just accidental eye contact. Before tip-off, the coach scanned the court. One player was missing. The team's starting defender had been in a bike accident that morning. He wasn't ready. Coach didn't panic. He called over the assistant. "Bring in that new sub, the kid from 10th grade, the one who trains early." "You mean Kofi?" "Yeah, get him a second jersey." 10 minutes later, Kofi walked onto the court in the alternate team jersey. No name, no number, but it was official gear. Brandon spotted him and sneered, "Oh, so Eastbrook does charity now," letting the ball boys suit up. The others snickered, nodded, but no one stopped him. No one had a good reason to. Kofi hadn't done anything wrong. He was just there. First half moved fast. Kofi sat on the bench, eyes locked on every pass, every opening. Brandon missed while showing off. At halftime, the home team was down by 9. Coach turned toward the bench. "Kofi, 2 minutes. If you mess up, I pull you, no questions." Kofi stood, stepped onto the court. No nerves, no glances, just tightened his laces and looked at the ball like it was the one thing in the world he truly understood. First minute in, he dribbled past 2 defenders, threw a no-look bounce pass that made the bleachers let out a collective "ooh." Brandon scowled. Coach raised an eyebrow. Second minute, Kofi got the ball near midcourt, took it straight in. The defender blocked the lane. Kofi faked, left step back and launched from just behind the three-point arc. The gym went dead silent. The ball spun in a perfect arc. Swish. Clean. Not even the rim touched. A smattering of applause. Not loud, but real. And for the first time, the crowd said his name. Not that black kid, not the rookie. They said Kofi, Kofi, Kofi. At the end of the quarter, coach didn't say much, just gave him a nod. "Take a break. Good work." Brandon passed by. No smirk, no joke. Just one sentence. "Don't think one lucky shot makes you a hero." Kofi didn't reply, but he looked him in the eye for the first time. No challenge, no fear. Just the look of someone who knew he didn't need validation to prove he wasn't ordinary. That night, Kofi wrote day 22. First time wearing the team jersey. No number, no name. But I left a mark, and at the bottom some claps don't have to be loud, just enough to break the silence that came before. The morning after the scrimmage, the school's internal bulletin pushed a media update. A 14-second clip capturing the moment Kofi jumped from beyond the arc and sank the shot was reposted to the school's unofficial Instagram page with a simple caption, "10th grade rookie just stunned the varsity, no name, no tag." But everyone knew who it was. Within 3 hours, the clip had been shared over 40 times. Not just by underclassmen, but even by seniors who used to think nothing surprising ever happens at this school. A few comments started to pop up. "Who even is that guy? I thought he was just the kid that got bullied. Wait, he actually shoots like that." At lunch, when Kofi walked into the cafeteria, no one clapped, no one shouted, but a few students quietly moved aside to make room for him, something that had never happened before. Brandon, sitting at the center table, noticed. He narrowed his eyes. A strange irritation started to rise in his chest. No one had taken his title, but for the first time, the attention in the room wasn't orbiting around him anymore. By the end of the school day, Kofi received an official message from the basketball team. Join afternoon practice, testing for secondary lineup inclusion. No emojis, No congratulations. But he understood it was the kind of invitation many had waited over a year for without ever getting. That afternoon, Kofi showed up to practice in full uniform. For the first time, the back of his jersey read Kofi. No one clapped, but the coach's stare wasn't just watching. This time it was expecting. Brandon led the team in warm-ups. When he saw Kofi, he turned to his teammates and spoke just loud enough. Guess we've got a prodigy now. Make sure to spot him. Wouldn't want the little guy jumping so hard he breaks his glasses. A couple half-hearted laughs. Then silence. No one spoke up, but no one joined in either. During practice, Kofi didn't score much, but every movement, every pass was razor sharp, light but precise. The coach nodded once or twice. Not praise, but his usual sharpness had softened just enough to notice. At the end of practice, Brandon hurled a ball at the hoop. Hard, sweat silence and frustration. On the way to the bike lot, he blocked Kofi's path. "I know what you're trying to do," he said, "but I've been here 3 years. You really think a couple flashy plays erased that?" Kofi didn't step aside, didn't argue. He just looked him in the eye and spoke for the first time. "I'm not erasing, I'm adding." Then walked past him. That night, Kofi opened his notes app and typed, "Day 23, first time seeing my name on a jersey. Some people still hate me, but today for the first time, someone stepped aside not to avoid me, but to make space." Saturday night. The first exhibition game between Eastbrook in the Jefferson District, student team, a school known for its tall, polished players, and its all-white roster. The bleachers were packed, stadium lights blasted bright white sound echoing off every wall. For many students, it was the first time they'd seen the gym this full. Parents, teachers, guests, even a regional scout or two. Kofi was listed as a bench player. Jersey number 14, brand new, his name, Kofi, printed bold across the back. As he stepped onto the court to warm up, a few Jefferson players muttered among themselves. "That number 14 looks like a diversity pick," he heard it. Didn't react, just tightened his lace and touched the game ball for the first time. A stiff leather ball, heavier than the ones he was used to on the back court. First half, Kofi didn't get in. Eastbrook fell behind by 12. Brandon played well, but refused to pass. Too many solo drives, corner traps, turnovers. The coach watched. Didn't intervene. Second half started. When the scoreboard hit 17, the coach turned to the bench. "Kofi, go." A murmur spread. Brandon and a few teammates glanced over, surprised, but no one objected, because this wasn't a suggestion. It was an order. Kofi stepped onto the court. No glances at the crowd, no glance at Brandon. He walked straight to the guard position, ready for the inbound. And the moment the ball hit his hands, the noise faded, just heartbeat and the squeak of sneakers on hardwood. First drive, he cut past 2 defenders, then fired a lightning-quick pass to the left corner. The shooter didn't hesitate. Swish, the crowd clapped, not wild, but real. Second drive, Kofi kept the ball floated. It high jumped. The ball bounced on the rim, spun once and dropped. A loud cheer. "Kofi!" Brandon watched, face blank. But for the first time, he wasn't the center of attention. The quarter ended. The score gap closed to 4. The coach clapped Kofi on the shoulder and gave a small nod. "Good, keep playing like that. Don't force it. Just be real." Kofi sat down. Sweat rolled down his face. He gripped the water bottle tight. His heart was racing, not from exhaustion, but because for the first time, the court wasn't something he had to fight for. It was something he stood on fully on his own terms. That night in his notes, Kofi wrote, "Day 24, real court, real crowd, real opponent. I stayed standing." And the cheers, this time they weren't out of pity. 3 days after the exhibition game, the name Kofi started showing up in the school's internal chats, not as a meme, not as a victim, but as a question mark. Some called him the guy who flipped the second half. Others labeled him a one-game wonder. But Brandon had a different take, highlight illusion. "Wait for a real game, you'll see." He dropped that line into the basketball team's Discord. No tags, but everyone knew who it was aimed at. The next day, Kofi was moved up to train with the main squad. No announcement, no explanation, just a quiet statement from the coach. Starting today, number 14, practices with Team A. That practice was brutal speed and reaction drills pushed hard. Kofi wasn't the fastest or the strongest, but he was the only one who didn't make a mistake in the tactical sets. Every pass he made landed where it should, right direction, right teammate, right timing. No flash, just accuracy. The kind that quietly frustrated players used to solo plays and showmanship. After practice, Brandon tossed his jersey onto the bench and glanced at Kofi. Not bad, but I wonder how long you think that lasts. Think that adopted prodigy magic's gonna get you through 10 straight games. Kofi didn't react. But for the first time someone else did. Leo, pretty sure he doesn't need anyone's magic. Looks like he's doing it himself. Brandon didn't answer, but his eyes no longer looked so sure. That night, a rumor spread. An anonymous account posted a status. Heard Kofi's the adopted kid of NBA legend, Malik Carter. If true, well, now it makes sense. Dude was handed a spot. The post wasn't direct, but every word cut like a knife sheathed in velvet. Kofi read it. He wasn't shocked. But he did go quiet. Malik Carter, his late adoptive father, had always told him never to use his name to take shortcuts. But now that name, without Kofi ever saying it, was being pulled out as the excuse to dismiss everything he had worked for. He didn't clap back, didn't post, didn't explain. He just typed one line into his notebook. Day 26. They think I climbed on someone's shoulders. No one asked how many reps I did after lights out. And beneath that, he added, if I have to shoot 100 times just for them to call it luck, then I'll shoot 10,000 until they finally see. Luck doesn't land that many shots. Wednesday, the court was slick with early morning dew. The sky hadn't fully brightened, but Kofi was already there. He'd arrived earlier than usual. No headphones, no music, just him and the ball. Every shot echoed like a silent rebuttal, not directed at anyone, but aimed at everyone. Since the anonymous post, no one confirmed anything. No one denied it either. But at practice, the shift was obvious. Brandon wasn't cracking jokes anymore, but he also refused to pass to Kofi. During team drills, the ball always curved around him, like his presence was something everyone had silently agreed to treat as inconvenient. Kofi didn't push back, didn't complain, but in every drill, his grip tightened, his shots landed cleaner, his movements grew sharper. He didn't fight the system. He just played so well, the system couldn't ignore him. Mid-practice, the coach called everyone in and announced the official lineup for next month's tournament. 8 names. Kofi was number 8. Someone patted his shoulder lightly. Someone else said nothing at all. But Brandon, walking past, dropped one line. No worries, keep playing. When we lose, everyone will remember. Oh yeah, he's just that guy's kid. This time, Kofi answered his first reply short and even. Thanks for the reminder. Helps me remember I can't lose. That afternoon, while everyone left, Kofi stayed another hour. He replayed every mistake, retook every move ever called, to textbook. By sunset, the court was empty, except for him, draining shot after shot under a sky washed in orange. That night, he typed into his notes app. Day 27. No one credits me with talent, but they're surprisingly generous with calling it love. And just below that, in bolder text, like carving it into his own mind, they can doubt my name, but they won't be able to ignore the sound of the net, day after day after day. Meanwhile, across campus, Leo the upperclassman wrote his own entry, staring out toward the court. Some people don't wait to be recognized. They just keep going until applause becomes inevitable. Game day. The outdoor court was covered with a large event tent, spectators seating packed on 3 sides. Eastbrook was set to face Silvergate, the reigning champions, back-to-back winners the last 2 seasons. For the match, not much was said about Kofi. Most of the school's press releases focused on Brandon, the veteran captain heart of the strategy. If Kofi was mentioned at all, it was as a promising rookie, his name printed small, almost like a footnote, inside the locker room when the coach announced the starting lineup. Kofi wasn't on it, Brandon smirked. But at the end of the briefing, the coach looked directly at Kofi and said, "You don't have to start the game to prove anything. Go in when you're ready, then make sure they never forget you." First half passed, Eastbrook trailed by 11. Brandon went 2 for 7 with 3 turnovers. Tension rose from the bleachers. The quiet murmurs started soft but spreading. Looks like Eastbrook's warhorse days are over. Midway through the second half, the coach waved Kofi. Urine whispers, a few glances. But Kofi didn't care. He stepped onto the court like he'd always belonged there. First play, he caught a pass from Leo, slipped past a Silvergate defender, spun midair and launched the shot off balanced glass, then in. The crowd let out a collective gasp. Second play, Brandon stumbled and lost the ball. Kofi intercepted, cut across the lane, and tossed a no-look pass to the left wing. Leo finished, scored. Third play. Kofi drove it himself, weaved past 3 defenders, pulled up just outside the arc. The shot arced high, dropped clean through the net. Perfect. The crowd erupted, no prompting needed. A group of students started the chant. Ko-fi, ko-fi. Brandon went silent. He didn't leave the court, but he was no longer the center. Each time he touched the ball, he passed quickly, and more often than not, passed to Kofi. With 19 seconds on the clock, the score was tied. Eastbrook had possession, Leo. Passed to Kofi. He didn't rush, didn't hesitate. Just scanned the defense, then jumped. The ball left his hands. Time felt like it stopped, swish. The sound of the ball slicing through the net rang out sharp, clean final like a punctuation mark, slamming down on every doubt. The entire court leapt to its feet. Cheers, shouts, applause. No one asked who his adoptive father was. No one mentioned race history or supposed privilege. Only one phrase echoed through the stadium. Kofi just saved the game. That night, Kofi sat alone in his room. He didn't open his notebook right away, just stared out the window where the echoes from the court still hadn't faded. Then he picked up his phone and typed, Day 28. First time they said my name without a but, and for the first time I wasn't forcing it, I just played. The morning after the win, Eastbrook buzzed with noise. The clip of Kofi's game-winning shot had spread across every school forum and even made it to the district's high school sports news page. But the most shared caption wasn't "Rookie saves the day." It was, "The kid who once got milk dumped on his head just made the whole school stand up." No one denied it anymore, but not everyone accepted it. In the hallway, Brandon walked past Kofi, no eye contact, no words. Behind him, a few muttered as they passed, "Yeah, he's good." But if he wasn't Malik Carter's adopted kid, would he even be on the team? Just lucky. One game doesn't prove anything. Kofi heard every word, but he didn't stop. Didn't argue because he understood. People will always need a reason to downplay the success of someone they once underestimated, and the more reasons they dig up, the more real that success must be. That afternoon during the team strategy run-through, the coach stood in front of everyone and said, "You were chosen to be here not because of your background, but because of how you play. And if anyone here still thinks basketball is about luck, go find a seat in the stands." Brandon looked down. Kofi didn't need to. His eyes stayed fixed on the clipboard where his name was no longer marked temporary, but locked into a starting role. After practice, Leo patted Kofi on the shoulder. "Crazy. I thought you'd quit after the milk thing. Didn't think you'd be the one carrying the team forward?" Kofi smiled clearly for the first time. "I was never planning to quit. I was just waiting until the sound of the net got louder than their laughter." That night, instead of writing a note, Kofi opened every training video from the beginning of the year. Shots that missed off-balance runs, slow crossovers, all the way to the mid-court jumper that made the crowd explode. He titled the video, "Not Luck, Just the Work No One Saw." And in his notebook, he wrote one last line for the day. "If I am someone now, it's not because of who raised me, it's because I stood up. I played and I won with my own hands." Week after that historic win, the statewide high school tournament committee held a press conference to announce the list of most promising regional players. Out of 5 names, Kofi's was one of them, the only player under 11th grade. The news sent Eastbrook into a frenzy. Student forums lit up with comments, "He actually deserves it. Whoever called him lucky is probably slapping themselves right now." But during Monday morning school assembly, when the principal took the stage to publicly congratulate Kofi, something unexpected happened. And especially, let's congratulate Kofi Carter, the adopted son of NBA legend Malik Carter, for bringing this school national recognition in record time. The sentence rang out clearly through the mic. Kofi stood near the edge of the court, expression unchanged. But from the bleachers, whispers spread like ants crawling under skin. "Oh, so that's Carter? Well, that explains it." Now it all makes sense. It was the first time Kofi had been called Carter, not on paperwork but out loud in public. After the assembly, the way people looked at him changed, no longer distant or dismissive. Now it was measured like they were reevaluating everything, and Brandon said nothing. But as he passed Kofi on the court later that day, he smirked and muttered, "So the real name's out. Told you anything that feels off usually comes from where you're really from." Another player on the team asked directly, "Oh, was it your dad's name that got you on the roster back then?" There was no bite in his voice, but the question hit like a bullet wrapped in sugar. Kofi didn't answer right away. But that night, for the first time, he spoke publicly, standing before the school's athletic club with a short, clear message. "I carry the Carter name, but I don't shoot with anyone else's legacy. I trained on my own legs, and if anyone thinks I got here because of a name, step on the court, the hoop's still there. Whoever scores more, that's who's right, the line spread across the school, not because it was loud or dramatic, but because it was too real to argue with. That night, Kofi wrote day 30. My name's out in the open now, but starting today, I'll show them no name is big enough to replace what I've built in with real sweat. 2 days after the public announcement, Kofi became the center of every conversation, but not in a comfortable way. Teachers began looking at him with a mix of admiration and curiosity. Underclassmen asked for photos, advice. Some even sent messages that read, "Thanks for showing us, we can dream big too." But alongside that praise, the whispers sharpened. He only made the starting lineup because his adoptive dad is famous. Sure, he's talented, but would it be enough without the Carter name? Just another overnight success story. At team practice, the coach asked them to split into groups for technique drills. Brandon took it upon himself to sort the teams, deliberately placing Kofi with all the newer players, bench warmers, underused subs, and even a kid who had never set foot on the court. Leo was about to protest, but Kofi gave a slight shake of his head. No need. At the end of practice, Brandon walked past and patted Kofi on the shoulder. Doesn't matter whose kid you are. What matters is, when I call up a few reporters, what do you think they'll print? Young black athlete rises through hard work, or NBA star's adopted son handed special spot. Kofi turned to face him, looked him straight in the eye. I don't control what they write, but I do control what you'll see on the scoreboard. Brandon didn't answer, but something in his face froze. For the first time, his stare didn't carry disdain. It held hesitation. That night, Kofi practiced alone on the backcourt until nearly midnight. With each swish, he repeated one line in his mind. No one gets to decide who I am if I make it loud enough myself. Around midnight, Leo showed up with a water bottle. He sat down beside Kofi. I used to think the truth would kill your drive, but now it looks like you turned it into fuel. Kofi smiled genuinely quietly. I live in the shadow of someone great. And to not be swallowed by it, I had to become something else. Not the next shadow, but the kind of light they didn't see coming. That night in his notebook, Kofi wrote day 32. A name can lift you, but only you can make sure you stay standing. The night before the regional quarterfinals, tension ran high across the Eastbrook team, tight as a wire. The coach called Kofi into his office, not to talk tactics, but to ask quietly, "You sure you're okay? The media's got a spotlight on you now." They're not seeing a student anymore. They're seeing a Carter copy. Kofi nodded, unblinking. I don't need them to see me. I just need them to be unable to ignore me. The after I played, the game kicked off at 7 p.m. Over 300 people in the stands. Regional press brought full camera crews. Parents, teachers, alumni, all present. Brandon led the team onto the court, still introduced first, still the captain. But then the loudspeaker echoed, and number 14 starting guard Kofi Carter. No one questioned it anymore. But the stares were loaded, admiration, expectation, judgment, and the quiet hope that he'd stumble. In the first quarter, Kofi played clean, controlled, scored 8 points, dished 2 assists, and made a perfect steal. The coach nodded repeatedly. But Brandon, the more he played, the more rushed he seemed. Near the end of the second quarter, under pressure, he missed a wild three-pointer and jogged back to defense with frustration on his face. Third quarter, Brandon changed his game. He stopped passing to Kofi, even when Kofi broke free, twice with perfect spacing. On the third, Kofi shouted, "Right side, I'm open." Brandon held the ball, forced to drive, lost it. The other team scored on the fast break. Timeout coach called the team in, no yelling, but his stare cut deep. I don't care what history you've got with each other. Only 2 things matter here, the scoreboard and the final score. If you're not playing for this team, you're playing from the bench. Kofi stayed silent. Brandon flushed red and slammed his towel onto the bench. No one defended him, and just then a camera panned to the scoreboard. 10 minutes left. Eastbrook down by 6. Kofi looked up at the bleachers. A black man in a hoodie sat silently. No shouting, no banners. But Kofi recognized that stare. The man who once taught him to dribble with both hands, who once said basketball won't save you from being judged, but it'll make people look whether they want to or not. Tightened his laces, stepped back onto the court. No pep talk, no spotlight, no one chanting his name, just the ball in him. That night, just before the final quarter began, Kofi scribbled one line into the corner of a notebook hidden in his backpack. When 33. This isn't about fame anymore. This is the game I play to prove. Even if others walk off, I stay and lead. Final quarter score 54-60, Eastbrook down by 6. Brandon sat on the bench, water bottle in hand, eyes off the court. The coach didn't call him back. Leo brought the ball up. For the first time, Kofi was in charge. No intermediaries, no second voices. He led first play. Kofi worked with Leo and an 11th grader to execute a perfect fast break, 3-man motion, quick release, clean finish. Score cut to 4. Second play, a missed shot by the other team. Kofi intercepted, sliced across the court, fired a cross-court pass. Leo caught and laid it in. 2 more points. The crowd began to rise. They no longer chanted one name. They roared, Eastbrook, Eastbrook. But by minute 6, trouble hit. Leo was double-teamed, collapsed on the ball. Kofi had to go solo. 2 defenders closed in. He stepped back, then spun 180 degrees, dribbled behind his back, slipped the ball through one opponent's legs, darted right and shot. The ball spun like a laser line curved. Kissed the rim, swish. The entire crowd exploded. This time not just for the team, but for him. Kofi, Kofi, Kofi. Brandon stayed seated. He didn't speak. He didn't smile. But his eyes, there was no contempt left. Just silent recognition. Kofi didn't look back. He didn't need to, because the only eyes that mattered were in the stands. The man in the hoodie still sitting, nodding once barely noticeable. Final play game, tied 15 seconds left. Kofi held the ball. The court fell silent. He scanned the defense. No panic, no rush. Sweat ran down his spine, but his hands stayed steady. 5 seconds. He lowered his stance. Jumped. Released. 3 seconds. The ball hit the glass. Dropped in, the buzzer rang. Eastbrook won. The team rushed him. Leo grabbed Kofi and yelled, "You did it. You pulled us all across the line." The stands flooded the court. But Kofi stood still for a moment, eyes lifted toward the scoreboard. Not for the numbers, but because, for the first time in his life, he could see it clearly on every face. No one looked at him as the chosen one. They saw him as the one who chose himself and followed through. That night, Kofi wrote the final line of this chapter, day 34. I no longer need anyone to recognize me as someone's son. Because today, I became a name on my own, with the hands that shot, the feet that ran, and the will that never begged for space. 3 weeks after the quarterfinal victory, the name Kofi Carter was no longer just a topic inside Eastbrook. He appeared on statewide student news, invited for an interview by a youth sports media outlet. The interview clip racked up over 30,000 views in 24 hours. The headline read, From Cafeteria Joke to Regional MVP, The Journey of Kofi Carter. In the interview, Kofi kept his calm tone. I don't play to prove anything. I play because basketball is the only thing that doesn't care where you're from, what your name is, or what your past looks like. If it goes in the hoop, you are right. If it doesn't, you're wrong. Simple. That quote spread across social media. Students from other schools sent messages. Thanks for showing us. We don't have to be perfect to belong. I got laughed at too. Now I'm gonna play like you. No permission needed. Kofi didn't reply to every message, but he read them and he knew he was starting to change something bigger than just a game. Eastbrook advanced to the regional championship. Kofi dropped 24 points, 8 assists, 4 steals. Brandon sat the bench for most of the match. For the first time, he was the one to reach out after the win. I still don't like you, but you saved this team and I got nothing to say beyond that. Kofi shook his hand. Didn't say anything back. He didn't need an apology because he knew real recognition doesn't shout. It lives in the silence that used to be judgment, now replaced by respect. At the post-game press conference, a reporter asked the coach, what was the biggest surprise of the year? The coach didn't even blink. The kid who didn't say a word, his first month here now, has the whole league learning how to listen to the way he plays. That night, Kofi was invited to speak at the school's student recognition ceremony. He stood on stage holding the mic and spoke slowly. I'm the adopted son of a basketball legend. I won't deny that, but I don't jump higher because of his name. I jump higher because I trained for 2 years in a dorm room. No one ever saw. And if you're seeing me here today, it's not because I waited to be accepted. It's because I played until there was no choice but to accept me. In the audience, everyone stood, not because of chance, but because they knew they couldn't stay seated anymore, in front of someone who turned judgment into a launch pad. The morning after the honor ceremony, a new sheet of paper appeared on Eastbrook's main bulletin board. It wasn't from the school. No stamp, no big title. Just a handwritten poster taped up with clear tape. The bolded message read, "If you ever thought Kofi made it because of his last name, then apologize to yourself for forgetting every great name started on days when no one even got it right." No signature. But below, someone had scribbled in pencil, "We stayed silent when they dumped milk on you. We were wrong, thanks for not leaving." Kofi saw the note while walking past the hallway. He didn't stop for long, just brushed his hand gently across the corner of the page, like nodding to someone who owed him a word. That afternoon in the gym, a small group of underclassmen approached Kofi. "We want to start a new club, self-training club. We don't care about making the team. We just want someone to show us how to train in the right way, and if it's okay, we want you to be the one who leads us." Kofi looked at the young faces. One had brown skin, one was pale, one was scrawny, and couldn't shoot right yet, but their eyes were clear. They didn't want to be taught how to win. They wanted to be taught how to stand. He nodded. "I'm not going to coach. I'll train with you." That night, instead of practicing alone, Kofi shared the small back court with 6 new kids. They ran. They gasped for breath. They fell, but they got back up, and for the first time, Kofi didn't run alone. Back in his room, he pulled out his phone and added one line to his notes. Day 36. The only thing stronger than recognition is helping someone else believe in themselves. In the final week of the season, Eastbrook hosted its memory wall. Exhibit a space for students to post a note about something they didn't want the year to forget. Each student was allowed one piece of paper taped to the wall. Brandon came early before the event officially started. He carried a plain sheet, unfolded, untrimmed. In slightly shaky strokes of black marker, he wrote, "I stood near you when they poured milk on your head, and I looked away. Now I stay so no one else has to go through that without someone saying something." He didn't sign it, but he taped it dead center right below the team photo. As he turned to leave, his eyes locked with Kofi's from across the room. No smile, no nod. But in that glance, there was no distance left. That afternoon, the self-training club held its 4th session. The group had grown from 6 to 11. One of them had once held the phone that recorded Kofi's worst moment. He didn't ask for forgiveness. But every time Kofi corrected his form, the boy listened, took notes like he was saying, "This time, I'm not standing off to the side." Later that week, a new poster appeared in the nurse's office. "If you feel like you're being dismissed because of your skin, your voice, or who you are, come talk to us. We don't diagnose pain. We listen to it." Beneath it, someone had scribbled in tiny handwriting, "Thank you, Kofi. Now we know silence can be a scar too." That night, Kofi sat alone on the gym bleachers. No ball, no drills, just stillness. He watched the faded court lines, the slightly bent hoop, the echoes of footsteps that he once heard alone, now shared by others. He opened his notebook and wrote, Day 37. Some things we create aren't meant to make people remember our names. They're meant to remind them. Someone once stood up because silence was no longer enough. On the final day of the school year, Eastbrook's courtyard was kept simple. No big stage, no loud music, but something in the air felt different. Each class was asked to write down a moment from the year that they believed deserved to be remembered forever. Kofi's class wrote this in bold red marker on plain white paper. "We used to think winning meant being chosen. Now we know winning is doing the right thing even when you weren't." They taped it beside the photo of the regional champion team, right below the picture of Kofi leading the first session of the self-training club. The ceremony ended. People took photos, said their goodbyes, hugged. Near the exit, Brandon saw Kofi. He hesitated for a moment, then said, "You're not like me. I used to need people watching before I even tried. You played when no one saw, and now everyone has to." Kofi shook his hand lightly, but for the first time it was a real handshake. No tension, no chill, just real. That night, after everyone had left the school, Kofi returned to the old court, the one where he'd first trained alone. He stood for a moment, no ball, no drills, just walking slowly along the painted lines. At center court, he pulled a small, folded piece of paper from his pocket. Handwritten, it was the first thing he'd ever written when he arrived at Eastbrook day 1. No one said my name right. No one asked what I liked, just laughter and an empty desk. He placed the note at the center under an old worn-out basketball. He didn't burn it, didn't throw it away, just left it, then walked on. The next morning, an underclassman arrived early and found the paper. He read it, then added a second line in fresh handwriting. Day 1, I found something that shouldn't be left behind. Thank you to the one who came before.